Check, check. Mic check, check.
to getting this meeting in despite not having school today. We typically do cancel activities, but I appreciate everyone being able to come out and keep this on schedule. Like to keep it as much on schedule as possible. Today we do have a handful of guests. I will say we're getting into the meat of the budget, where we have much more personnel, many more details, starting with this week and then finishing up next week with the largest of the articles that we're dealing with. Just as a follow-up from last week, I know we had conversations about transportation and our contract with Sear Bus. I did have the opportunity to meet with them this past week, and we will have a savings on our contract because we're being charged for more buses than what we actually have. So from here until the end of the year, we will be charged for what we currently are using for school.
And that will mirror what we will have next year as well. So we will see a savings in that contract for next year. That was a good meeting. They did recognize the error, and I appreciate the time that they gave to us to go over that with them. So I just wanted to update you on that. Today we're going to go right into our individual articles, going right in numerical order, because all of our guests that we have today are all in Article 5. So Article 5 consists of a variety of departments and positions. So we have our technology, we have our curriculum, assessment, instruction, we have our wellness, we have our safety, we have our counselors, our librarians, nursing, a lot of different people and moving parts in that particular article. So I will turn it over to Brittany Lehman, our Director of Wellness and Safety here in the district, and she will go over her portion of Article 5.
Hi guys. So I have a very small portion, so I wanted to go first and leave the rest for these lovely people. I'm here to speak to our nursing budget, and that is mostly supplies. So our nursing structure will not change for the next school year. We'll keep the same ratios we have now. Looking at acuity that's coming in, it'll be a good standard. I do have the ability to move people or change some things up if I need to, based on what comes into our district for health needs, but it's looking pretty good right now. There is going to be an increase to our budget because of the cost of supplies going up. So I did do a 10% increase in the supply line. Just to cover, we use a variety of health catalogs essentially, and I just looked at the average and chose to go up a little bit on that, just to cover our needs. We are also going to go up in our professional development line because there is a conference next year. The main school health institute will have a conference in June, and I'd really like my nursing staff to go and have some professional development around that, so I did increase that line. You will see the HA line is quite a bit bigger in the supply end, and that is because I'm purchasing Stop the Bleed kits for 50 classrooms here at HA. We were able to supply Reedsbrook, Smith, and Wagner with Stop the Bleed kits from a grant that came from Waldo County. So we partner with the Waldo County School Safety Task Force, and they were able to get a FEMA grant for us for that. So I have bigger safety things, but that will come in a different article. So my lines are pretty simple, and I like to keep it that way. So.
And again, you may not necessarily see all of the specifics. So Brittany, if you could just explain, you mentioned the Stop the Bleed kits. Can you explain what that is?
Sure.
And that is embedded in the HA specific line. You may not see it on this.
So Stop the Bleed kits are part of our school safety protocol, and what those are the kits that contain tourniquets, gauze, bandages, alcohol, gloves, things that we would need if we had a catastrophic event happen here at school. It's to help stop bleeding that will kill somebody. So we are looking to supply that in all of our buildings, but focusing on middle and high school, because statistically, if something tragic was going to happen, statistically it would be at the high school and middle schools.
As far as the tourniquets go, do you know, are they cats
Yep.
or rats?
They are the cat ones.
The cat
Yeah,
ones?
yeah, we use the tactical, so they come, they're the tactical, what are the cat, I can't remember what they are, but they're the tactical tourniquets.
We just recently had a training on that ourselves, and the size, the smallest diameter that the cats can go to is larger than a children's arm is.
Mm.
So what we did was we got the rats,
Okay,
they're a smaller diameter and they're able to cinch up tighter.
okay.
So I don't know if you wanna look
Yeah,
into
no,
that
definitely, thank
avenue.
you.
And then the rats are even slightly less expensive than cats.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, thank you, I appreciate that, especially moving into our smaller students. My nurses are Stop the Bleed trainers here in the district, and we have been able to train quite a few staff this year and last year, and we'll continue to do that as the years go on.
Great.
Thank you.
So, when you say the kits,
Is there like one kit in each school, or is there?
So the Stop the Bleed kits are this big, and they are vacuum sealed, and each classroom will have one of those packets. They're like more like a packet.
so there's like,
So it would be like one tourniquet in this?
Yeah. So one tourniquet in each of the packets in each of the classrooms, so about 50 tourniquets would be in our buildings.
Oh, all right,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, quite a few.
All right, yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
You know, and we've had, so a little history. So back in 2020, we worked with Northern Light, their trauma center, and Hampton EMS, and we brought Stop the Bleed to the high school. We had grand plans of doing a lot of training, and things went sideways for a couple of years, and we're getting back together, and those kits that we have expired, so we've had to purchase new ones. And I built the kits before, and there was more work than it needed to be for the cost, so the cost was comparable just to buy the good Stop the Bleed kits that we can get. So, pretty excited about it, as I go.
thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions for Brittany? Again, no change in nursing numbers, that will stay status quo. Personnel, the only increase that you'll see in personnel is just simply for wages and benefits. I will also say, since we do have a lot of benefits in this next series of articles, and then next week, last week I told you 17.89%. I think it was the next day we received a range, and that max is now to 14%. So we've adjusted all of our ranges to 14. I'm optimistic it will be less than 14, but I'm not confident, 100% confident it will be. So we're leaving it at 14 for now, and then typically we get our actual number at the beginning of April. And so I anticipate probably tomorrow, now that we've made this announcement, but I would say in about roughly the next week or so, we'll get the actual number for this district, and we'll reflect that and everything else moving forward. By the 11th, okay. All right, so I think it would be Jennifer Nickerson, who is our Director of Curriculum.
It's funny, Brittany, we both walk over here even though there's no podium. We're just like trained
It felt
to talk to you
natural.
from the same address. Thank you to everyone again. I echo Nick's sentiments. Thank you for keeping this on track and coming out today. And I'm really excited. This is the first time in my years here in the district that we've had town's representatives at the table. So I appreciate that. And thank you for offering good comments. So I look forward to curriculum instruction and assessment comments too. So what I will give you, I'll give you the punchline first. Basically, and what I'm asking for is I'm reducing my lines by almost 15,000 this year, and I'll tell you why. So what I've done is I've looked at the 3 years when we meet with Chris and Nick. They give us a 3-year average for us to look at, and then what I do is I collect quotes from all the companies for math textbooks, for software that we're using, and whatever, and build our budget that way. The past 2 years, our supply line and our books and periodicals line has been significantly increased because we've been implementing a new reading and writing program. And so that was a significant increase in cost. If you aren't aware, the first year that a new course or a new program is implemented into our schools, that it comes out of the curriculum, instruction, and assessment lines at the district level. After that first year, it moves to the building level. And so that's how it was when I got here, and so that's how it continues to be. So that's why I'm able to reduce some of those lines, is because we don't have that large expense this year. I am still able, even with that reduction, to to support 4 new courses here at the high school that we are implementing next year. And so that is really exciting to me to do that. And implementing 4 courses at the high school is a little cheaper than every K through 5 ELA classroom with reading and writing new materials. So I have 3 main areas in my budget. There's the curriculum coordination section, there is an assessment section, and then there is an intervention section and a professional development. I guess that's 4 sessions, sorry. 4 sections. So the curriculum coordination is where you'll see the $19,000 decrease. You probably don't see that. I know your lines look a little different than our lines, but that's where I've been able to reduce that because of the reduction in our literacy needs there. The assessment has decreased by about $3,000 only because, and I'll be straightforward, we moved it to the school level. I was supporting at the district level an assessment for pre-K, K, and 1 that is called Early Bird. It is a literacy screener, and it also is a dyslexia screener. That was being supported at the district level, but anything that is used by students can be moved to the school level so that it gets reimbursed at that 55% rate by the state. If it lives in my lines, it doesn't get reimbursed. And so we looked at what are students using and trying to put those in the appropriate places. So we didn't cut that, we've just moved it to a better location in the budget. Intervention is the part that did increase, and in intervention we have the person who staffs the homework club at Reedsbrook and the person who staffs the homework club at Wagner. Those live there, and so there's been an increase in the collective bargaining agreement, so the increase in wages there. Also, there is in the collective bargaining agreement a person who's a recess person that lives at the elementary level. That is in their collective bargaining agreement. That increased in the amount that's promised, and so that lives in those lines as well. We put the Magic School AI tool software that we use, because students are using that now. We have moved that to the school lines as well, instead of keeping it at the district level. And I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I do want to be real, because I think that's really important when we think about this. Usually we get our preliminary allocations for federal funds the beginning of March. We don't have them yet, and I don't know when we will get those numbers. I do know that if everything stays status quo, we will be losing some Title II funds. The state of Maine has realized that they have not been implementing the formula in the correct way. And so some of us have been getting more money in the past than we should have. And so they're going to right-fit that over the next 3 years. We do not have as big of a loss as some of our neighboring districts that are losing over 10,000. So we're not that, thank goodness. But we will be losing a little in Title II. If we lose it all, there's, in the local lines that I have for professional development, we have enough at each school for 3 folks to attend a 2-day conference. And so right now we support $200 for a 1-day conference and $350 for a multi-day conference. And we have enough for 3 folks at each of the buildings, except the high school we budgeted 6 because of the large number of staff. So if we do not receive Title II funding, that will be it for what we can have for professional development, which will be a significant change. Another significant change coming to Title II this year is they're really cracking down. I've been on 2 webinars this spring talking about that they will no longer support reimbursement to districts of the one and done conferences. They are looking for us to come up with ways to have job embedded, sustained multiple times, like bringing consultants to the district, for example, and meeting with them on each of the in-service days. Those kinds of opportunities, rather than going to Portland for 1 day to listen about the science, opportunity and then come back and never do anything with it. And research does show if you don't do something in 3 days, you never will. So I understand their backing behind that. That's also going to be a significant switch. This is my 3rd year in this seat, and I don't know of anybody who has been denied a conference if it met our strategic plan goals. We have said yes to everybody. and that would have to change. And so that will be a shift for us. But I wanted you to be aware that what is in the budget, that how many people that would actually support and for what. The other thing that is there is changes to summer programming. We were really blessed with ESSER to be able to have some summer school programs, such as grades 3 through 5. The virtual summer school was very successful, and we tried a couple of different models for the middle school. But this year, we don't have any money in the budget, and I have not added any for next year. This year, we did finish up with ESSER funds, and so we have a take-home pack with the reading books, if any of you are parents in the district. Your kiddos all got one last year, pre-K through 8, and they will all receive a different one this year. We already have those ready to go, but that's the extent of our summer programming. Next year, we won't have either option. And so if that's something that you want in the budget, we would need to relook at that, but at this point, we don't have any summer programming funds in there. So, overall, that's my lines at a glance, and I'm welcome to any questions. Again, thanks for coming and listening and learning more.
Can you just differentiate the titles? Title
Sure.
1, 2, just so everyone knows, please.
You betcha, you betcha. Title I is a fund that is set up to help support students who may face challenges due to a socioeconomic status. And so in our district, we have 2 schools that qualify for Title I status, and that is our Smith and Wagner schools. And right now they receive extra money. The district receives that money, and then we decide how we're going to spend that to support the kids at Smith and Wagner. And right now we have salaries, eat up 92% of that, 95% of that. We have 3 teachers and an ed tech that we pay fully out of that fund. So if we don't receive Title I, I'm not sure what will happen to that. The other, this year we're using some of the money to contract with attendance, Count Me In, which is an attendance group, because we're seeing the attendance discrepancies at those schools, a larger chronic absentee rate. And so we've used some Title I money to partner with them for that. Title II funds has a variety of uses. We primarily use it for professional development. In another district I was in, you could use a portion of it to basically pay for a teacher under what's called a class size reduction. But that is a really tricky way to use that money, I've learned in my 4 years of doing that. So we typically just use ours to support professional development, and it has to be building-based folks. So like Nick and I are not eligible to use any Title II funds. It has to be building-based leaders and any learners, ed techs, teachers. And we also receive Title IV. Title IV has 3 buckets: well-rounded education. And this year, for example, we had students from Wagner and Weatherby went to the Collins Center and saw the Yamato Drummers. And those tickets were paid for out of that. Recently, Smith School just had a giant, if any of you got to see pictures, the giant 40-foot inflatable whale that we got to go inside and see all of the whale organs. But that was paid for through this Title IV funds. It's really like focusing on STEM ideas. It's focusing on arts and music and opportunities that kids may not have that you can bring to your schools. And then there is a Safe and Healthy Schools initiative. We have supported buying devices called the Walking Classroom in the past out of that. They're like little iPods that the teacher punches in, like if you're learning about plants and you look up by the standard, and then it loads onto the device, and then you can walk around outside. And the kiddos will hear a little podcast, and then you come back in. We also purchased the read-alouds that Brittany uses at the schools for Harvest of the Month. So each school has a collection of these materials that's there. And then there's an effective use of technology bucket. And we've used it for various things in the past. Projectors, if we needed one replaced. Our tech camp that was held in August, to be able to pay presenters to come and do that. This year we're using a portion of that effective use of technology money to help supplement our Teach with Tech program with the drones, because it has to be something that's innovative in that bucket. And so we're looking there. We used to receive Title V funds, which is a rural funding. We no longer receive that. And I've tried to advocate that we haven't moved anywhere. We're still exactly in the same spot and still rural. And I can't figure out why Herman gets it and we don't. But that is out of my hands. And Title V is nice because you can use it for any of those other things that I said. It doesn't have all the rules around it. So you can use it in whatever way that you see fit in your district for need. So those are the titles.
I do have a question on the titles. We
Sure.
talked a lot about Title II. So
Yeah.
are all the titles, we could lose funding for all the titles?
Correct.
Okay. And so that was one of my big questions. And the summer program, that's not in the budget. How much does that summer program cost?
So I'll tell you two different prices, how's that? The book packs that go home to everybody pre-K through 8 cost our district this year around $48,000, and that came out of ESSER funds for this year. So it's about $50,000 for that part. For the portion where there are people, like in grades 3 through 5, there's a director and then there's a teacher that works with them virtually. And he also last year started the 6 through 8 program. And so for that staffing, it ends up being about $10,000 for that with their wages and benefits. There's no real supplies because the kids use the Chromebooks from school, and so there aren't really any supplies. We have in the past sent home a bag with K through 2 students that had like a notebook and a bingo board in it, and the kids worked on the bingo board. And if we were going to add that in, that'd be about another $5,000. So and those are rough estimates, Stacy, but that's pretty close.
Okay, so, and we could, if we wanted to pick and choose, we could have like the bingo cards and maybe the instruction for the students as well as support.
Sure, yeah.
I'm just worried about not doing anything in the summer for students, because we all know the summer slide.
I'll tell you some great data. Smith School last year, with first implementing our new Being a Reader program, K2 last year, they tested all of the kiddos in the fall, and there was hardly any summer slide because we now teach to mastery K2. And so that is really exciting about our data, right? But not every kid's lived through that right now, that scope and sequence, and there's still a lot of gaps. But that is really encouraging data to me, so. But yeah, summer slide is a thing.
I have a few questions and a few comments, I guess. I was trying to follow along here with some of like the $16,000, and is there different forms that we're not seeing, or?
What you have is just the summary, so she might be referring to one particular line, but you have the summary of just each portion of it.
The category, okay, great, thank you. I also wanted to say that, yeah, that Count Me In program is great. The chronic absenteeism that the lower socioeconomic classes suffer is great nationwide, so programs like that are great. And it's back to the conference funding you were talking about. You mentioned maybe bringing people in during the in-service days. Would that be something that could be expanded upon instead of sending people to conferences? And then that would, you could fill a room with staff, and then everybody could benefit from like an in-house conference by hosting them here. Would that
Yes.
equal out and expand upon the usage?
100%. I've been in touch with 2 companies in the last 2 weeks, one just on Wednesday. On Wednesday, I talked to Maine Math Science Alliance, and Becky Tapley there. She came last year and did a Monday night, the first Monday of each month. She had right in this room, and we had over 30 people that signed up for that, and it went the whole year, right? So I said, what else can you do for us? Here's what I'm looking at our data, and I'm noticing. And she has a K through 5 computational fluency, so fact fluency, which is a need for us, for kids. And she has a series that we kind of roughly sketched out because no one's picked her dates yet. So we have like free reign right now. So to come here and lead all of our K5 educators who teach math through that, including special education teachers. That they'd be able to attend that, it would be on all of our in-service days, and then they'd have an hour Zoom with her on some of the early dismissal days. So opportunities like that. I've reached out to another company that has cooperative learning structures that really increase student engagement, and I've reached out to them about coming on site and doing some of those pieces. So yes, more people would get to experience the professional development. Yeah.
That's great, good work.
So I'm assuming that the funds allocated for professional development don't accurately show what we actually go through. Would you be able to give like an average of teachers that as of either this year or last year that attend those development courses?
Well, how about I do this, Luke? So we get entitled to this year, we received $104,000. By the time we finish this year out, we go through about 60,000 of that. Whether that's getting consultants here or that's sending people places, we go through about that much of it each year. Does that help?
Jennifer, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
So for the Title V, that is bonkers that we don't get it.
Agreed.
Is that something like, can the school board, can the towns be calling someone to advocate for that so that you're not calling alone?
So the person I talked to at the DOE told me that there's some numbers that are submitted, and he did not get them from anybody, so he used the census data. And so according to our census, he's telling me, we are no longer qualifying as rural. And that's about the only explanation I get, and that there's nothing he can do. Our district doesn't qualify, and it's out of his hands.
So would town pressure help that? We'd be more than happy to send some emails.
I don't know, I can certainly give you his name and email.
Yes,
Please do.
Okay.
I would definitely.
Yeah,
interested
that
in
just doesn't add up, and it doesn't add up.
Right.
So,
I will send that to Nick and have him forward that on to all of you, and kind of his explanation of why we don't qualify anymore, so.
yeah,
Yeah.
that would be awesome.
Okay.
You can harass.
My-
Go ahead.
Just to respond to that, my initial reaction is that we've recently, in the town of Hamden, have achieved the urban compact status. And that affects a lot of things, from road funding and urban development that goes on within the town. So I think that comes off the census data once we reach a certain population number. I don't know right offhand what that number was. It was in the high sevens, but possibly because we're the largest residential area in the district, that might offset the other three districts, the
Yeah.
other three towns.
That could very
Maybe.
well be it. It is interesting to me though that for some funding that we get, it's like Waldo County, Penobscot County, and then some, they're looking at our district as a whole. I mean, it just seems like very pick and choose which is which.
Yeah.
And we received, just so you know, we received about $25,000 in Title V before we lost it, so that was, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good chunk of change.
Yeah.
And my second question is, I know our district has done an awesome job rolling out the mandatory Wabanaki Studies curriculum. And so I'm just curious if you know off the top of your head what the budget was in 2025 and then 2026 for paying, consultants, speakers, Wabanaki folks to come in and share.
So as far as I know right now, we haven't actually expended any this school year. Before I took this position, there was written into the Title IV grant a lot of books and buying books for classrooms that were multicultural, including Wabanaki Studies. What Tina Boone and I have been working on that we hope to roll out next year, we were thinking of saturation points of teachers at the elementary level, but we have aligned our social studies program, which is a platform called TCI. We've aligned that to the Moose modules that as a resource for Wabanaki Studies, and with the educator guides that Bree Lowler has given to us. And so we have a spreadsheet for them outlining that while you're in this unit in social studies, also look at these and incorporate those into that to really tie in main studies. When I reached out to TCI, they don't do anything specifically for Wabanaki Studies, and so Tina and I worked on that some vacation. And so we are gonna be able to roll that out to elementary teachers next year, just really strengthen that program in a intentional way, so.
Can you just
Okay.
briefly talk about Moose modules and
Sure.
Reloader so people know?
Sure. Man, I've gotten myself into something. Bree Lowler is a consultant who was contracted with the DOE, and now she has an actual position with the DOE. And probably Kristen can talk more about her, but she helps the district. She has written some wonderful educator guides with the help of many people, but like a grade 1 guide, a grade 2 guide that is really helpful for us who are implementing that and want to do that in a way that makes sense and is responsive and sensitive to their needs.
On the
And
topic of what?
Wabanaki studies, sorry. Sorry. The Moose modules, I can't tell you off the top of my head. I have some stickers in my office. Moose stands for something, but basically they're these online video segments that come complete with lesson plans that have been designed by Maine educators. As a matter of fact, some people in RSU 22 have designed these Moose modules and put them up there. I know Amy Henson in our pre-K program is one. And they come in all kinds of topics. So there's Wabanaki studies, there's science topics, there are math videos, there's reading connections, there's community, there's all of these areas that you can look at, and they'll provide some little video lessons and a teacher lesson plan for you. It's all free of charge, and so that's a resource for our educators that's free from the Maine DOE.
And
Is that helpful?
Yes,
Okay.
super helpful. And I'll just add that our district also has access to Chris Sakalexis, who is the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer for Penobscot Nation. His wife works here, and I know he gives countless hours to our district, which is just awesome. So I guess to further clarify, I think it's been great. We've been able to use so many people who haven't charged us so far. If we get someone that is willing to speak to a classroom, an elder, somebody on a fixed income that needs compensation for their time and their knowledge, do we have a way to offer them compensation in our budget?
So that would take a little finagling probably, to be honest with you. So I have to submit our federal grant application typically August 1st. And I have to say what we're gonna do for the whole school year in a vaguely specific way, so that they will say yes, but that we can still have wiggle room for experiences like that. And there's nothing specific, I'm thinking automatically to Title IV. There's nothing specific about that in there. There's a civics education portion, but there's nothing specific about that, but we could probably figure out a way to make that work, but otherwise, I'm not sure. We'd have to think outside the box on that one. It would not be a barrier. It would just be when the opportunity presents itself, you'd have to sit down and just kind of think about it. It wouldn't be a no, but.
Okay, yeah, I think it would be an important thing. I mean, I can't imagine it would be more than $500, $700 for a year to make sure that little buffer's there. But thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm sorry, before we move on, I'm going back to the summer program.
Sure.
Is there something you can do between now and, over the remainder of the budget season, come up with maybe a proposed plan for summer? And maybe it doesn't consist of the 48,000 on those books, but come up with some type of plan and a dollar figure associated with it that might be doable, and the grade level, if it's, maybe it's not grades 6 through 8, if that's not the grade level that is at risk during the summer, but the lower grade levels, can you come up with a proposed plan and a number for that?
I could bring you all the options and you could a la carte it. How's that?
Great,
Would that
for
work?
all of us to look at. That's great.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and just let me know what meeting you would like that at, so.
Yes. You had mentioned implementing 4 new courses at the high school. So can you just elaborate on that and what specifically your portion of the budget will contribute to the 4 new courses?
Certainly. One of the new courses is AP World History. And so typically freshmen have not had access to AP courses. And this will be a course that's accessible to them, so it's very exciting. We actually thought, we got a quote for 25 books, thinking that would be plenty, And I had to go back on Monday and ask for 45, because we already have 43 kids who signed up for that. So that is very exciting that kids are challenging themselves and taking that on right from the first day in this building. So that's really exciting. So my portion would cover the textbooks and the teacher materials for that. So that is in there. Jewelry making and print making are 2 new art courses that have been approved by the Education Committee. And so my portion is basically the supplies. All the jewelry clasps and the gems and whatever else they need to do that, and the printmaking blocks and the paint itself. So those kinds of supplies would be what I would be helping with from the local budget. And then the drones courses. So there's an introduction to drones course, and there is the advanced course that leads to the FAA Part 107 commercial license. We have over 40 kids signed up for the intro course, and we have 17 already signed up for Part 2. And so mostly the Teach with Tech grant that we applied for and got, we received about $54,000, which got us off the ground. The training for Mr. Huff and Mr. Moore were paid out of that effective use of technology in Title IV funds. And we have some additional drones for practice. That the kids won't be crashing any of our very expensive drones. They can have the $100 drone to practice on, right? And some obstacle materials and safety equipment. The kids were so excited. They just got some vests to practice, and they were doing them this week. And they have like a pilot in training with a drone they're putting in the makerspace using the Cricut machine, and you have to have a visual inspector. And so they're making these different colored vests and really getting excited for that program. So it's materials like that. In the future, the drone program will not require that much, honestly. We are looking to help purchase the any student who wants to sit for the FAA Part 107 license. We would like to support that, like we do an AP course fee, and so we are going to take that on locally as well.
So, I'm just new to the whole thing, so the drone courses are both new. Is it this year or next year?
They're going to be implemented in the fall.
Okay. So how can we have an advanced class if we haven't had the basic class yet? How are those students eligible, I guess would be my question.
That is a good question. So the intro course is 1 semester. And so they've signed up, say, for the fall. And then 17 kids know they already want to do it in the spring, too. So, and Mike, too, we have, we're so excited as part of the grant process. We have 8 community partners that are working with us for that. So we have a surveyor, Hamden Police are coming over to talk about how they use drones. Chinbro is coming. We have a blueberry farmer from either Frankfort or Winterport that's coming, and she's going to talk to us about how she uses that. So it's awesome, and we have been told by some of these folks, if you can get these kids their license, we will hire them the day they have it. And so it's opening doors for kids that I'm super excited about.
Awesome. I just didn't understand how we had the advanced before. We had the beginner, but now I'm there.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's not a full year, Mike. Sorry. All right, that's a good question.
And you brought up a good point with the freshman AP course.
Yes.
So we pay for the first AP test for every student. So if a student takes 1, that exam is paid for. If a student takes 3 in that particular year, the district will pay for 1, the family pays for the other 2. So I'm assuming that comes in Articles 1 and 2 and not in your article, correct?
Not with me.
Right,
No.
yeah, so that will be something that will come up next week. But that's an addition of 40 plus students taking AP courses for next year.
Correct. Yeah. It's very exciting. I'm thrilled.
And that may be getting ahead of the horse. It may not be something you talk about, but I just want to ask, since you seem to know a lot. Adding courses at the high school level, awesome. Wagner still doesn't have a foreign language offered compared to Reach Brook. My daughter took 4 years of language, well, no, 3 years. I don't think they offered it in 5th grade. I could be wrong. She'll tell me tomorrow. Where are we on that? Is that your deal? Is it somebody else's deal? Where am I on that? Because I think the kids in Winterport are losing out from that, and the Winterport and Frankfort kids don't have that opportunity.
To be honest with you, Mike, no one in the district has that right now, and they didn't. We tried an online version, and that didn't work. it wasn't an impactful for kids. And so we met with the high school world language department, Tina Boone and I did, and we met with them, talked about, here are some paths, you know, like, do we keep doing this online thing that isn't awesome, but maybe it's better than nothing, like, and they recommended nothing. And we just met with the Ed Committee this past month in March, and we talked about this very, what do you want us to do kind of scenario. Tina Boone and I went to an online, so not like an online software program, but this is like a remote classroom. And so the woman was teaching Spanish, and in the classroom were the kids, and an ed tech that was actually live in the classroom with them, but the teacher was projected, and they were working through their Google Classroom and doing all of that stuff. Is it better than nothing? Probably. Is it really what we want? Probably not. But we keep advertising and we keep hoping that we will get some world language teachers, but quite frankly, they aren't graduating any, so it's really hard. So no middle level world language is happening right now.
At either school.
At either school.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate, but
Yes.
at least it's fair.
Yeah. We talked about, like, even if we had, so this, it's a company called Full Mind, and they have to be, like, it would have to be a Maine certified teacher that they would get, and they become our employee and have, you know, all of our wages and benefits, but are remote. This person, we talked about maybe just doing like a half day, and maybe it's just 8th graders that would have some exposure, you know? Yeah. So we're still tossing around ideas. We have not set that on the shelf and said we're never going back. We're actively trying to think. And so anyone of us, anyone on the education committee would love to hear ideas if you have them. We've tried hiring people from away, from another country, and that didn't work out. So we keep trying.
That's all I can ask for.
But whatever we do in one, we'll do in the other, and so that's why we were really, you know, thinking about that, and that we would have to have an ed tech at Wagner and ed tech at Reedsbrook if we did this right, and so, yeah.
So,
Oh, did I hear you
correctly, that
They're not graduating any foreign language teachers right now?
Very few, and they typically, I kind of understand, although I'm an elementary teacher at heart, but to be a world language teacher at the high school, and you can pretty much, if you're graduating from the University of Maine, you're gonna be wanted somewhere at a high school, and that seems to be a more prestigious job than teaching middle school, and so they're taking high school jobs, and there's not very many of them to pick from, so yeah, it's definitely a high need area, for sure.
that's crazy.
For sure.
Thank you.
Anything else you want me to chat about?
I think you probably can sit down now. There are a couple things I'm just going to say. I believe you gave one of them, but just so the public can hear, out of the 3 title accounts that we have, Title I, and these are all this year's numbers, just under, I should say, $327,000. Title II, a little over $104,000, and Title IV, about $36,000. We have a total of $467,819.
Would you say Title I was?
326, just almost 327. So,
What was the total again?
you're testing my eyesight right now. 467's 819. If we lose it, I would not be pleased to have to raise this locally, but I could tell you what we have done for our students with this money. I'm not sure I'd be willing to say we can't do it anymore, especially the personnel. And that the bulk of that, as Jennifer said, is in Title I. We probably could manage with the other ones, although it would be difficult, but to lose the title services for our students would be very, very detrimental to this district. And that's something that we'll talk about when we get to reserve accounts down the road. I think I mentioned it earlier on, but I am going to make that recommendation that we put something in there in the event that we lose out on title funds. Until we know differently, I'm not comfortable saying we're guaranteed to get it.
And that's federal government money.
Correct, yeah.
Great.
So as you can see, there is an awful lot. There's still one more component to Article 5. We're not even done yet. But Jennifer has done a great job with this particular piece. There is a lot to the instruction curriculum assessment. And the next one that we'll have in this group is Nate Savage. Nate's the director of our technology, and I will turn it over to him for that.
It's tough to follow that act. Okay. So same thing, you'll have a summary in front of you of the technology budget, and I'm going to go into detail. Feel free to stop me, ask questions along the way, or you can wait till the end. That's up to you. I don't care. Whatever works best for you guys. So I'm going to start with a little brief introduction of the main Learning Through Technology initiative called MLTI program. This program has been around for about 25 years. It was a way to provide laptops to 7th and 8th graders in middle schools, networking infrastructure such as cables, switches, and access points. A lot of that infrastructure costs a whole lot of money, and this program provided that to certain grade levels long ago. It is adapted over the years as different politicians have come into play. 7 or 8 years ago, it was just, I think, 5 votes from expanding the initiative 7 to 12, and not just 7th and 8th grade, but it did not pass. But another good thing came out of that in that it was no longer an Apple initiative. You could bring different devices, the device of choice that you wanted for your school district. Now, the majority of Maine schools have been using the program in Apple for over a dozen years at the time, decided to stay, but a few have moved on to different devices, and we are, as of now, a Chromebook device. So this iteration of the MLTI program that we're currently in is a 3-year iteration. We are on year 2 of 3, and what they're asking us to do is to choose a grade level, and we will get devices for each student in that grade level, as well as every teacher or ed tech that works directly with students of that grade level. So the first iteration was really nice. You can choose whichever grade level you want to help the district out. Mr. Raymond and I were like, let's choose the grade level with the most students. So we went with the 12th grade, and there was a lot of students. We end up getting reimbursed from the state almost $194,000 last year for that program, and that program provided a lot of good devices to our school for that grade level, and these devices are also warranted for 3 years. They come with cases, and as you know, the students at the high school can take them home if they want to. So this year, the proposal for the MLTI program and the technology budget is the 8th grade level. Not as many students as this year's 12th grade, significantly less actually, but still one of our higher tiers. And the teachers, ed techs that work directly with them. And so in my budget, I have earmarked for the MLTI program about $101,000 worth of Chromebooks. And that is a purchase made by the district and then reimbursed by Department of Education, I believe, sometime in October. So that is a great program. Next year we'll probably choose an elementary grade just to round it off, and I hope it continues. It's a great asset to the state and the students of the state, and it helps with some of the network infrastructure, and that can get very expensive too.
Just stop you right there for a second. That is, just to emphasize, that shows as an expense from our side, but then it is a revenue coming in. So you would see that built in, and some may say, I thought we were getting money back. We are. It just doesn't show in the same column. So you'll see one as a revenue, one as an expense, but that is reimbursed by at the MLTI program.
Okay, and for this district to develop a technology plan, it's got a 5-year term, and in it I talk about all kinds of other things: software application development, technology integration, and devices, hardware infrastructure, and stuff like that. So as you know, with technology, there could be years where we're really, really heavy, and then we back off, and then we're heavy again. So what I try to do with that technology plan is spread it out so that it's as balanced as possible and we don't have those kind of waves of budget years. So in the technology plan itself, we are on year 4 or 5. So next year I'll probably start developing the one for the next 5 years. But in it, one of the things we needed to cover was the iPad refresh. The current iPads we have in the school district for grades pre-K through 2 are 2019 model, and they're showing their age. The principals and the staff have asked me, or when are we going to get these done? So I'm bringing that to the table this year in hopes that we can get that done. And that's spread out amongst the schools, elementary schools, hardware lines, but that total is going to be around $277,000. We are on year 3 of the projector refresh. The projectors that we had in the district in all the classrooms were really old. They have a 7 or 8 year lifespan, and most of them are on 10 to 12. And so rather than buy them all in 1 year, we decided to divide it over 3. And that projector fresh will conclude with Hamden Academy. Most of the school needs to be done. There is the upper wing on the 3rd floor that is completed, but the projectors, installation will all be done to the tune of about $120,000. And then network support, network licensing, network equipment. That all comes at a cost to the school's lines, and that's based on the student numbers that we have at each school. So I divide that out, but the cost of all that, renewals, licensing, et cetera, is about $82,000. I have a district technology related repairs and maintenance line. This line is used for various parts to support all the devices we have in the district. We are a 1-to-1 district, pre-K through 12. Every student in our district has a device, as well as staff members, and some staff members in the elementary school have a laptop and an iPad, so they can help the students on their iPad as well. So that line is used to support those devices. And then also some of my networking equipment. I have 2 big middle school projects that middle school principals asked me about this year. We've been looking into, did a couple of walkthroughs, and it's first start with the Wagner stage. They're looking at putting a projector there for meetings in the stage area, the cafeteria area, and a new sound system to upgrade the antiquated sound system there for about $31,000. And very similar project in the Reedsbrook gym. They want to put a projector in there that will be protected with a cage, as well as an updated sound system for all school assemblies and grade level meetings. Same price. Software for individual schools. I have a line for the schools as well. There are learning management systems we use. Google Classroom was mentioned earlier tonight. We have to pay for that, licensing for that. That's based on a per student cost. And for the district, that's about $12,000 divided amongst the schools based on the student numbers. And then a similar learning management system called Seesaw. That is a pre-K through 2 system for our district. That cost is going up. That impacts McGraw, Smith, and parts of Weatherby to the tune of about $4,000. Okay, some of the software in my software lines that I have are the ADS Pro Fund software we use. We use Securely, that's a filter-aware classroom software. It basically lets us know when students are visiting sites that they shouldn't to. It helps block sites. It goes with the device, so it's not just a filter that's here at the school. By law, because we're E-rate, we're required to provide the filter wherever the device goes. So this program helps us do that. It's also allows us to get notifications of bullying, cyberbullying, self-harm. We've used that a lot to make phone calls home to parents to let them know about things that are going on that may concern us. We have printer management software called SimQuest, helps manage all the printers in the district. We use a program called Intrado that manages our app, our district website, and our notification system. You all got the notification this morning, hopefully, that there will be no school. That's through that platform. We use a software application called Clever, which helps manage all the student accounts in the district. There are a lot of students as they come and go, graduate, come in, either from the elementary schools or maybe from the high school. They transfer in from one of those feeder schools. All these accounts need to be created. They need to be suspended. It's too much to manage for just me and 2 staff members, my support team. So we have some software that covers that. And then we have Microsoft Office licenses. There are about 42 of those in the district. Most of the district uses Google Docs, Google Drive Suite, but there are about 40 or 42 of us in the district that need that Microsoft license. And then other applications for classrooms like Quizlet, Padlet. There's some Power School add-ons that I have on the list too that enhance that, the report cards. There's the newsletter is another one we use called S'more to make our newsletters look professional, to also make them look alike. But that pretty much summarizes my software line. Okay. And now I want to talk a little bit about some things coming up. We had talked about replacing the old teacher MacBook devices. Those were purchased back in 2020 with COVID funds, and they have shown their age as well. Renewal prices is for all the teachers and ed techs in the district, about $315,000. Is my recommendation that we use the technology reserve fund for that. And while we're talking about technology reserve fund, that was a pretty big number that I just mentioned to you. So it's also my recommendation, so that this doesn't jump at us every 5 years, that we put aside, $75,000, $80,000 a year for this, so that we can cover it that way. And E-rate is another program I want to talk to you a little bit about. E-rate is a federally funded program for the main schools and libraries. We are on, next year will be the last year of a 5-year cycle. You have to pay to get into the program, meaning they do a match. And they do it based on your economic status. So we're a 50% receiver school. And so during the last 5-year cycle, we were entitled to $1 million, but we had to spend $500,000 to get the other $500,000 from the feds. So we paid $500,000 of that, and then the feds gifted the other $500,000. We used that money to update all the networks in the schools, all the access points, switches, the cabling, firewalls, all that equipment, licensing. It's very expensive. I believe we'll be good for the next 5 years. I say that our networks are only 2 or 3 years old, but if the E-rate program, this federally funded program, does not provide the same type of support that it has in these 5-year cycles, I worry that 6 years from now, I'll be coming up with a question, like we need to come up with a lot of money to replace all this network equipment. And I just gave you a figure, almost $1 million. So it may behoove us at the same time to start putting some money aside in addition for that to the technology reserve fund as well. The last thing I'll add is that next year's, according to the district tech plan, we will finish off with the grade 3 through 5 Chromebook refresh. I'm trying to get one more year out of those devices. Those were also purchased with COVID money. But the kids at those levels don't really take them home, so they're in parts, they're a little bit better. So I think they can last one more year, but that will be an item that probably will run about $175,000 next year at this time. Any questions?
Are there any reserve funds now available to fund some of these projects?
We do have a technology reserve fund. It is not to the level to fund all of it. When we spoke, we felt as though that part of this really should be coming from the regular general budget, and then we could utilize some technology reserve funds to help offset the other portion. But to put it all on one or the other didn't make sense. So it was pretty much I wouldn't say it was an equal split, but the student-based stuff, if I remember correctly, was all embedded within the general budget, and the teacher-based items were from the reserves.
Okay, because I was thinking some of those larger projector projects would be a capital expense.
It could be. You're talking about the projector, the third year of our projectors, is that what you're referring to?
Didn't you, I think we were talking about a new projector.
In addition to that,
in
there were
the
2 middle
Winter-
schools.
Yeah, Winterport and Reedsboro. And one was like 35,000.
Yeah, that was sound systems too,
Sound
but yeah.
systems.
Yeah.
Something like that could be a capital expense. Either, or we pick one school. I hate doing that though. I hate picking one school one year and doing the other school the next year.
That's why I proposed them both.
It's exactly, it's, then
Your
know,
plan sounds solid.
yeah, so,
That's something we can talk about down the road, yes. Yeah.
You said something about a MacBooks refresh.
Yes.
Is that something we'll be going away from MacBooks into the Chromebooks
Well,
uniform, or was that?
for uniformity, we, 2 years ago, we switched from 7th and 8th grades having MacBook devices to Chromebook devices. So now, all our staff members have MacBooks. Our pre-K through 2 students have iPads, and our 3 through 12 students have Chromebooks, district-wide.
And you said you were gonna replace all the staff
Yes,
books with MacBooks or with Chromebooks?
with MacBooks. Yep.
Gotcha. Would there be a cost savings to go with Chromebooks versus MacBooks?
There would. There definitely would, but to go down that road with you, they would not provide the same level of service and needs that the staff members have. Our ed techs recommended that they transition to bigger screened Chromebooks, and that will be a savings for sure. But our staff, our teaching staff, I'm going to recommend that we stay with MacBooks.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
So I know in community relations, we had discussed updating the app to be more user-friendly. Is that something projected for FY26? And if so, would that lead to an increase in licensing funds?
It is something that's on my plate to do. I've got a couple of vendors actually going to be on the agenda for the next community relation thing. I want to see where the committee would like to take that. Licensing, no, but a lot of times if we decide as a committee, that's the will of the committee to move to a different platform, there's like an onboarding fee that usually is a one-time annual fee, and the licensing structure annually will be similar to what we're paying now. So we may have to, I may be back here in a couple of weeks talking about that, but I want to come and have that conversation in the committee first before I promise anything or say anything here about that.
You may have mentioned it, I'm sorry if I missed it, but are we also, I don't know if it's district-wide or the high school, upgrading like badges and security systems?
That will be a different day.
Oh, okay.
Not part of this article.
Got
You'll
it.
be hearing, that was the special thing that Brittany was talking about.
Oh, okay.
That will come up in a couple of weeks. It's called Mtg's, just so you know the platform that we're looking at.
So my question is, the Chromebooks, the ones that you bought for the seniors, I just wanna know. So what happens to them when they graduate?
They get passed on to the incoming freshmen. So,
They don't keep it.
right,
Yeah, no, that was what I was, so, but next year, you're looking for the 8th grade,
mhm,
you're gonna do Chromebooks for the 8th graders?
It's a numbers game, Ed. We always take the highest grade level because we get the most amount of money back.
Yeah,
So when we look at a snapshot of our enrollment, that particular year, the seniors had the highest enrollment. So the only way we could get the highest amount of dollars was to say we're allocating it to the number of the seniors. This year, or this particular year, the next one that was the most logical is the current 8th grade group, which will be in high school. That would be the group that we would target, so we could have a larger group, which would then result in a larger reimbursement.
so it'll be 8th grade next year, not the 8th graders that are coming into the freshman year that are gonna get the
that's correct,
hand-me-downs,
that is correct.
right?
Next year is 8th grade middle school.
So then, the freshmen will keep them for the duration of high school?
Yes.
Yes.
12th graders graduate, they turn in the device. The incoming freshmen will get those devices and keep them through their high school experience.
So at some point, will all students have,
Yes.
that's the plan?
Yes, well, actually, with the refresh that we get, this past year, we gave the opportunity because, I wasn't sure of the numbers, it was really close, which students still needed it. But we do have enough right now for all our students to have the newest device. Now, when you purchase them 1 year at a time, there may be a model, like if we're on year 1 versus 3, a model that's slightly newer and the warranties are different because it's only a 3-year warranty, so that warranty is only good for another year with the ones that were purchased 2 years ago, right? But, yep, they have the opportunity. Usually we don't find out what our numbers are like until the students pass in the device at the end of the year. Our 12th grade was one of the biggest grades. I still feel like there are some, I don't know, if I had to guess 50-ish students that are still hanging on to those old Chromebooks that we had that didn't take us up on the new one. And I can't do anything about that. We send out emails, they're making announcements. So it's their choice, but we do hold them accountable as far as when they march that they turn in the device. And so that's usually when we discover those types of things.
And also a point of clarification, even though we identify the seniors and the 8th graders, the classes in the middle still have a computer to use. Yeah.
And those were refreshed 2 years ago, so the entire high school, we have enough devices, the high school should have new devices, and when I say new, within the past 2 years.
And so I wanna go back to your tech-related supplies, the $142,000 increase. Where did you say, where was that going?
Again, that's spread out.
Yeah, it's much of that is the pre-K iPads, pre-K to 2, iPads, and the 3 to 5 Chromebooks that we have in what you're looking at.
I got you, okay. And
I just got one more question. $31,000 for a sound system for the gym,
Middle schools.
correct?
Yep, one gym and one stage, yep. Sound system and projector installation.
So,
You wanna volunteer to do it?
well, I'm just saying, is that a generic setup, you know what I'm saying? I mean, because 31 grand is,
Yep, the company that I use is Pro AV. They install professional audio visual systems throughout the state. I can get other quotes, and I have gotten other quotes. I've used Mark's Music before. The sound system here came from that, but they're compatible. I think last year the new sound system and the
Weatherby.
gym was used by them too. But when you're talking about having that equipment installed and set up, you gotta pay, I want it done with a warranty, I want it done right. So now I'm not back there having technicians come figure it out, So this company we've been working with, there's another one out of Lighthouse, out of Portland, that I've gotten quotes before too. So it is competitive.
So this is a good number, is what you're saying?
Yes, yeah.
We certainly could order something on Amazon that we, this is not a top of the line equipment, but it is not something that's junk that will be gone in a year.
Gotcha.
It's reliable equipment.
Correct.
That's correct.
Yeah, from the outside looking in, not pricing sound systems, 31,000's an eyebrow raiser, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of Nate's budget, there is a significant amount of skepticism anyway. When you have individuals that are not involved in education or may not have kids involved in education and don't realize the amount of technology that's in a school now, or even if you do have children that are in education, there is a significant amount of expenses that comes with technology at this point. And this district for years has been committed to having top-notch technology available for the students and the staff. They've committed to that, they've bought into it, and unfortunately there are additional expenses that go with it. And I will say that having met with Nate a number of times, and certainly Jennifer, who's sitting right there, these individuals do a fantastic job at finding the right deal and getting the stuff when it is needed, not just out on a whim, but getting it when it's needed, but also considering the staff and the students and putting them first. We want to make sure that we do have the top-notch equipment, but yet not the Cadillac or Mercedes version, something a little lower than that. But they do a great job, and I know Nate has worked hard. These numbers are large. These are numbers that we've been talking about, I've been talking about for 2 years, about technology, and we continue to talk about what's coming up in the future. It's not cheap at all, but we have to either bite the bullet and replace some of it and get the new stuff, or we're going to move in a direction where we have zero to no technology.
I did want to add one thing, and this will be, I guess, for the will of the committee, but I did get an option to phase it too. So if we wanted to do sound 1 year and then projectors, the principals didn't necessarily like that option, but it is an option too, something to consider.
Thank you, and thank you, Jennifer, both of you, and I can tell that you really enjoy doing what you're doing because you get excited about it, so thank you.
I yielded to the lady and I forgot my brain.
Sorry, just another question. This is more, I guess, a philosophical question about the iPads at pre-K. I guess I assume we've never had iPads in pre-K before.
Oh no, we got them with COVID.
Oh, we did?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep,
Oh.
so 5 years
So
ago,
I
4
guess.
years ago.
Oh. Okay.
Well, it was part of the remote learning, right? And so,
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Back to your comment about phasing the two. Do you have an idea if council decided to go into a phased projector sound system 2-year plan? Do you have a projection possibly of what next year's overall budget would look like? Would we see?
for those 2 items,
Well, I mean, I guess my mind's going to overall.
Overall?
Would it be conducive to even consider going to a phased approach this year? Or is it, we're gonna get hit in the face either way?
that's a good question. Well, I'm looking at the iPads that I'm asking for this year being replaced by the 3 through 5 Chromebooks for next year. So I think that's gonna be probably pretty much the same. I see the projector costs coming off because that would be the 3rd and final year. So that could potentially be a savings there too. Right now in this budget, that's $120,000.
I think aside from the projectors, that's about, the rest is apples to apples.
Yep, I agree.
Obviously, there will be at least I think there might be some increases to the software expenses that we have.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be drastic, it would just be a regular increase that we typically would see. But a larger, big ticket item would probably be the projector, 120,000, a projectors plural.
And then I just wanted to remind you just one more time, just thinking ahead of these, getting on these recycle plans, what that looks like, planning ahead every 5 years or so, you know, that we can do this. What does E-rate look like? And that cost associated 6 years from now is if we lose that funding, so.
So it wouldn't make sense to do the projectors and the sound systems separate year to year. You wanna do them right together at the same time for installation costs, I would imagine.
Yep, it will save a little bit, but when you're talking, I mean, a project that big, it's probably just travel costs for them. I think they might be able to do them within a week's time, both projects. So yeah, they'd have to come up twice for that. But there would be a little savings, I'm not sure how much it would be.
And you mentioned recycling, is that like the e-waste? We have to.
Recycling, I meant like, you know, when you go through a device, like it's refresh cycle.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
It has a shelf life.
And Nate, you had recommended 78,000 per year to go in the reserve fund.
70
That
to
would,
80.
What was that?
70 to 80.
yeah, that would cover the staff devices. I believe that would put us in a good position, so I'm not asking for that kind of money on my, you know, in my line and for 1 year, and then taking it off for the next 4 or 5. But there are some other things that I'm worried about too. E-rate and that $1 million network that we have, that equipment's only getting more expensive, and it will need to be refreshed. That's usually done in phases. I did that in 2 years. High school and middle schools in 1 year, or the high school and elementary schools in 1 year, and the middle schools in another. But it's still a lot of money, I just don't know where it's gonna go.
I was just gonna say, we don't know yet.
Right, exactly. It has been in the past, included in the program. We spend money and we're a 50% receiver, so if I spend, I think 1 year is close to $200,000 in networking equipment, you know, we received 100,000 of that back, so, or they covered 100,000 of that cost. I can't remember if we receive or they send the money to the vendor themselves. I can't remember, it was a while ago. But they pay for half of that cost.
Yeah, Nick, you probably know what I'm already gonna say.
Can we use any of the reserve?
Just another thought, if it truly is a 5-year plan, could you take the reserve funds, throw it in a 5-year CD or a CD ladder or something like that and try to cut out your inflation costs over the next 5 years? And also, two parts, any of this stuff American made? Because you're looking at tariffs, whether we like it or not, it's gonna get more expensive, and that's my point is.
Yeah, I'm worried about that too. The quotes that I got, obviously the Apple devices aren't. Right.
But if you could wrap in some reserve funds into something that's gaining interest and compounding,
Yep.
then you're gonna have more money on the other end than
To
what
offset
you have
it.
now. Yeah, especially for a 5-year watch plan, I think that's.
Yep.
I don't know any other options that would, outside of an investment account, that you could invest funds in, but I don't know how the school
I
can use those funds.
So I know that there is a law that we cannot invest the funds. What that might look like or what that might entail, I'm not sure. We can find out specifically.
Casey, when we were purchasing the commercial drones, we could only purchase American-made drones, and they were twice as much. And so we were looking at a $7,000 drone, and it jumped to a $15,000 one to get one that was approved from the United States of America Blue List. So that's my only reference of technology and what it means to buy American-made. And you should see it. It's gorgeous and it's beautiful and it's wonderful, and the kids are gonna have an amazing time. But that's why I'm also trying to put in for some, less expensive ones. But those will only be flown by the advanced kiddos. But that's my reference, is that it was twice as much. So.
I'll give you a point of reference as to why, though, that's kind of an important thing to factor into all this, because I do have another life, and I will tell tell you that technology is one of the ways that this country is being massively exploited. So like when you're talking safety of children and things like technology with drones and such, you know, you have all these Chinese drones on the northern border, you don't even know that. I mean, they're being given to FEMA and agriculture in this country, but again, you didn't know that, right? So it as much as you might say, oh, that's twice the price, there's actually a purpose for it and a value added. So in the long run, while we're debating nickels and dimes, which, okay, you know, twice the price isn't nickels and dimes, but when you're talking about the safety of kids and devices and software, that is one area where our kids are severely at risk. There's an Illinois case where through COVID, the devices that the kids were using, there was actually software involved that, and this was fostered through the state, that actually was spying on children, so their camera would come on in their bedroom and they were recording kids getting undressed and doing all sorts of things, and that had gotten out. So it's important to understand all that we're making decisions, and it's not always about the cheapest solution. Sometimes you need to kind of look at other things too, so just point of reference there.
Good point. Thank you, Nate. Oh, do you have another question, Matt?
No, not another question, just no more of a statement towards council, I guess, or the board, if you will. That I would support his request for setting aside funds for the future expenditure. That way we're not headed with a large lump sum every 3 or 5 years. That would be, I think that's a wise move.
Yeah, I support that as well.
Okay, just to go through now, so that takes us through the guests that we have today. We'll go through the sheets that you have, and some of it may be a little bit redundant, at least for this Article 5, but there are some things that I do want to go over, some points I do want to make. Just as clarification for the board, all of these are recommendations. So these are recommendations that stem from meetings that we have as an administrative team. These are recommendations that we have when looking at the numbers, the situations that we have within the schools. These are recommendations based on the strategic plan that we have. And so you have the authority to either change it or give us that a different recommendation. And it sounds like we might be doing something with summer school or at least summer instruction. And that's what this is for. And so good suggestion that you can give to the board members. But what's here is not necessarily Nick Raymond speaking. This is not me saying this is what we have to do or we're going to do. This is essentially a work session, so keep that in mind. And as we go through this, other questions may arise. First thing with this, I did mention the Anthem at 14% increase, so when you see salaries and wages, that's in there. Another thing that is in there, and this is another section that has some benefits, the state of Maine paid family medical leave. By law, you have to have 1% of the salary go towards this, essentially a tax for paid family medical leave. Employers have the option to pay a 50-50 or to negotiate something else. Our teaching staff, the district pays 75% of that. The employee pays 25%. Everyone else in the district that's employed, it's a 50-50 split. So some people within this article and the remaining articles that you see will have a 50-50 split, while others will have a 75-25 split. So it is all based on the individual and the position that they're in. Going down through the fourth item down where it says Section 504, you're going to see a huge increase there. This is a position that the board dedicated last year. This is an additional 504 position, a 504 coordinator position. We do have one this year. We included that into this year's budget. This is the second of two. If you remember last year, we were looking for 2 504 coordinators and 2 IEP coordinators. Those are individuals who oversee the 504 coordination and the IEP coordination, and meetings and minutes and schedules of all of our identified IEP and 504 students. So that position is in there, which is what the larger increase is. The next line down, where it says other student support, you're going to see the next time this article comes up, that will be 0. Why is it not 0 now? Because we just found out, as I've told you before, things change frequently. This represents a contract that we have with Northern Light Acadia Hospital. So we had a contract with them for social work services, clinical social work services, where we had 2 individuals housed in the high school, 1 individual housed between Smith and Wagner down at Winterport. We're eliminating that contract. However, we are looking to have our own employed social workers. What we have found, and this is no disrespect to the contract that we've had, but we have found that it is very difficult for them to find employees. We have had them for a while, and it's been a struggle for one reason or another. As a matter of fact, right now, Smith and Wagner have not had a clinical social worker since November. They actually just found one last week, but that individual is not going to come with us because we are moving in a different direction with this contract. We have found that our 2 employed social workers that we started last year have been very successful in the school, have fit in very well. They have a higher caseload, can meet the needs more with the students, and so we're going to go in this direction and try this direction to see if we can meet the needs more for our students. Our numbers for social work services are through the roof. Our own current employees are doubling what the Northern Light Acadia contract employees are working. And again, that's no disrespect to them. They have other requirements that they have to meet. They have billing purposes, they have notes that have to, records that have to be done. Our district employees don't need to go through some of the steps that they have to. So therefore, they're able to meet the needs and meet with more kids and more frequently. So this will be a plan for us. This is something that all of the administrators are on board with and are willing to try. And we are hopeful that since we were successful finding our own social workers, we are hopeful that we are going to be able to find our own in addition to what we currently have.
And you guys project that might be a savings long term?
I'm not sure if it's going to be a savings because when we're hiring our own personnel, there's always benefits to that. What I do know is right now, we're looking to actually have 2.5 social workers. The half individual will be through an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. They're going to be dealing with the insurance-based students. And in that way, we're not losing out on any numbers. And then our own personnel, our hired personnel, will be able to deal with anyone. Because right now, we do have some restrictions when Acadia does bring a new clinician on based on their certification, who they can see. And that won't happen with us.
Now, do you feel that, the number of employees we have, social workers can take on this caseload, support it, or do we need additional staff?
If we add these 2, I think if we add these 2, this is appropriate. Yes.
Just want to make sure, because that's really important.
No, I would really, I'd really have a struggle if we did not add individuals. But based on having my conversations with the school representatives and the counselors, they feel confident that this plan would work. Yes, yeah, we'll do that down here.
Just that it's not a case of that one line is going to disappear and then show up in another line. The 2 social workers are already included in this budget and the guidance line. So it really will be a reduction.
Nick, just a question, the contract question, I guess similar to the buses. If we haven't had a social worker since November, can we get any of that money back?
So the way we pay for them, they bill us the hours. So what happens is essentially there's 2 payments for them. They have payments through insurance when they deal with kids that have their own specific insurance. And then those that are not based on insurance, they call contracted students. And so we then pay them for the contracted students when they see them. So we actually haven't been paying for the missing person. So what you will find in that upper section, there will be a significant decrease when you see this the next time. Moving down, as Chris had just mentioned, into the section where we have student guidance services. The larger increase with the note says two FTEs, that's our own social workers that I was just referencing. We put them in the guidance section because we don't have a dedicated social work section within the budget. But there is a significant difference between a social worker and a school counselor, sometimes known as a guidance counselor. I live with one, so she always corrects me, it's called school counselor. But there is a difference oftentimes, especially at our elementary level. Our school counselors are in the classroom teaching and then dealing with the needs outside of the classrooms. In their sessions in the classrooms, the social workers are dealing with more high needs issues and also resources for outside, or helping families with outside resources. Student health services, the major change or the biggest change there, it's just personnel. The replacement staff at a higher step. So it's not changing positions, it's just based on the specific individuals that are within those positions. Moving on to the next page, the instruction-related technology. I don't want you to be fearful, there is no reduction of a 0.5 FTE, that's just the change of personnel again. We've talked about the refresh in the Chromebooks. The next section down is just the breakdown of the 504, which we spoke about, that this one will be dedicated to a K-8 504 coordinator. That next section we've talked about with the Acadia contract. And then the last thing I want to point out is actually the second to last section under library services. It says a reduction of 1 FTE. Again, it's not like we're cutting an individual. This person hasn't worked this year. It was a resignation from last year. It was decided at the last minute not to fill it. It wasn't needed, but it was still built into the budget. So therefore, we're eliminating it financially speaking, but the position didn't exist in this current school year due to a resignation. Does anyone have any other questions? I know that was a long article.
On that library FTE, was that money that's still sitting somewhere that would cover this year?
It's built into this year's budget, yes, so it will be left unspent. It would be an unfilled position.
Okay. And the FY25 actuals will reflect that versus the allocated
Yes,
budget?
yeah. The only way it wouldn't reflect that, Matt, is if we had, overall, if someone came in that, we had way too many people that were hired at a higher rate, new staff members, then it would essentially gobble up that difference. But I don't anticipate that. Usually we have some left over, but there is that variable. If you hire someone with a higher experience rate or experience factor, they take up any money that might be left over.
Gotcha, thank you.
My unknowingness, section 504, can you help me understand?
Yep. So 504 students and IEP students. So IEP would be those that are identified as special education services. 504 students may be identified with some sort of disability that impacts their academic performance, but does not meet a 504 requirement, an IEP requirement. So therefore it's built into Article 5 because it's student support, rather than Article 2, which is dedicated just to special education. And some 504s may not necessarily be just academic, it may also be a medical 504. The medical situation they're in is involved or impacting their academic performance.
And Nick, didn't the board hear that, is it the incoming kindergarten class, there's like quite an increase of kids that will need special education services?
Yes, and you'll hear about that next week with Lynn Wells through the CDS program that they have, Child Development Services. Yes.
That makes a case too for an additional person in that?
The 504 would not represent the IEP, the students with disability, the special education. That will come in Article 2 with special education services. This one, 504 coordinator or position helps students with only 504 case management, not IEP, special ed services.
And would that increase only be temporary until that influx of students moves up through, or does that stay with them through their career?
It varies, because there are some students that enter in as a identified special ed student and then they exit the program. But then there are also situations where they come in not identified and are identified. So it varies every year. One of the things that we really looked into this year are the needs and the numbers that we have, and whether or not we had the appropriate staffing, if we needed more or less. What was originally thought, and we'll talk more about this next week, but what was originally thought was able to be reduced because of some of the needs that we have now, or the numbers we have now. So there was a significant audit done of that special ed program this year with some changes coming up.
Great, thank you.
Anything else in Article 5?
So, for the, just clearing it up, for the social workers, so the plan is for 2, but the want is for 2.5.
So the plan is for the district to pay for 2, but the plan is actually for 2.5 to be here. The half person would be through a memorandum of understanding, which will not result in the district paying any money. That individual will make their money through insurance claims with the individuals that they see. But we will simply provide the space. All right, Article 6. So what you see here, Articles 6 and 7 are the administrators. Majority of the administrators. Article 6 deals with the district administration. Article 7 deals with the school administration. So Article 6 is broken down into the board of directors, the executive, and the fiscal office. So to take you back a little bit, when this, probably 10 years ago, the responsibility of the assistant superintendent was finance along with the district accountant. Then the superintendent oversaw everything else. That has changed. So now the fiscal responsibility belongs to the superintendent, and the assistant deals with the curriculum and instruction side. So it used to be that the assistant was only in the fiscal side. Now the assistant and myself are in the executive. Okay, so we'll go through that. The executive administration is the superintendent and assistant superintendent, along with the support staff to go along with it. So we have some administrative assistants within the central office. Those benefits, wages, salaries are all embedded in there. When you look to the central office fiscal side, that would be those individuals who essentially work with the numbers, the financial numbers of our district. So our director of finance, payroll, accounts payable, grants manager, all of those individuals fall under the fiscal side. All embedded into Article 6. So within each one of those, you have your wages and benefits, you have expenses such as postage, telephone, office supplies, copiers, any of that is embedded within this, all specific to the central office. And then also the board of directors section. So looking at the very top, you've got the board of directors, the staff relations and negotiations. So you'll see a significant decrease there. That is because we do not have any negotiations going on this year. There is some money left in there for legal services, but we last year we had hired the support of an attorney to help us with the teacher negotiations, and we do not have that this year, so that has been eliminated. And then the executive administration and the central office fiscal side, those have smaller increases, much of which are the salaries and benefits that go along with those individuals. I will say at this point, the salaries and benefits for anyone in this article have not been confirmed at this point. None of them. Mine is done by the board individually. Everyone else is done through conversations with me. None of these people are in a collective bargaining. So we have conversations usually later in the spring about what would be appropriate, and then a couple of them that are on salary have individuals meetings with me. So those salaries are not confirmed. That is a placeholder right now in there. Here again, Anthem 14%, and then the paid family medical leave. Everyone in this area right now is a 50-50 split. All the individuals that do the paid family medical leave. Any questions?
I guess the first line, board of directors, the 155, that's what the school board receives in a stipend each year, or is there additional?
We get $25 a meeting.
That's part of it, but it doesn't equal 153,000. So to give you some examples of what.
Yeah, no, I get it, I'm just saying, across the street.
So that does embed their wage of $25 a meeting. It also would include auditing services. The district audit is embedded in there. Supplies for the board, professional development for the board, anything involving the board of directors is embedded in that $153,000, including their $25 a meeting stipend.
Copy that.
Liability also in there. Any other questions for that particular article? All right, Article 7, very, very similar. The biggest thing I can tell you about this particular article, and especially if you see the breakdown of individual schools, just like it is with the central office article, when you look at the salary line under principal, that does not identify the principal's individual salary. I can't say that loud enough and emphasize that enough, because when people get their hands on the budget and they see salary, whatever school principal, they think they're making $200,000, $300,000. That is not the case. That also includes the personnel within that respective office. So some schools have one, other schools have more. So every salary, wage, benefit that is within that particular main office at that respective school is in that line. So here again, the school administration line, the increase is 7.19. That does not represent their salaries going up 7.19%. That just represents the wages that the staff in the office, we are required to pay because of the collective bargaining. These folks, just like the central office, have not had a confirmed salary at this point. That will come in May, so there is a placeholder there. It also includes, same thing like the central office, the copier, the supplies, the telephone, the postage, anything involving that, any dues or fees for that respective office and membership, that's in there as well. One thing I do want to point out that is a change that you don't see written here, so I want to voice it out. We are going to add a 50%, so 1/2 FTE, Dean of Students at Smith School in Winterport. So I'm going to repeat that. We are going to add a 50% Dean of Students at Smith School in Winterport. And the rationale, and I'll tell you what the plan also is for that. The rationale is that we are seeing, we have been seeing a significant need for someone to help with behavior and attendance. A dean of students that their primary role is behavior, discipline, and attendance support. And so therefore, we are going to have a half a position there. What that is going to result in, we have looked at, I talked about the audit in special education. We have done an audit through Article 1 as well. We have found that there are some staff members that are have some free time. And so we have made some adjustments. There will be no loss of staff members, And I am very confident that within the current staff that we have, we will be able to find a half a dean with very little increase. And when I say a very little increase, what I mean by that is an individual may have a half a teacher salary and then the other half a dean salary. So the teacher salary is a negotiated amount. We have to pay whomever it is at whatever percent we decide. So let's say it's a 50% position, we would pay them 50% of their respective salary. The other 50% would be negotiated like all the other administrative salaries are, but it would be comparable to the dean that we currently have in the district. So it may be a little more than a teacher's salary, but it will be a small price to pay to have a dean available at the school.
Would that cost come out of Title I funding, or would that be?
No, so the teacher salary would come out of Article 1, which you'll see next week, and then the other half, the dean portion, would come out of this piece. We couldn't use a title position for that because they're not educating the students. They're not the teacher. They would be teaching, unless it's a Title I teacher that is splitting their position, then their portion of teaching would come out of Title I. But it may not necessarily be a teacher coming out of Title I.
Okay, thank you.
So when I'm looking at that, I'm seeing $108,000 increase. Is that another position, or is that all salary based driven?
That's all salary and benefit based. I was just looking through my notes, I think I got it all. Any other questions with that?
Just to respond to Mike, yeah, that is a big jump, but I think probably 14% of that was because of the anthem.
Correct, yeah. So in this particular case, you've got to remember we have 6 schools. So of the 6 schools, each one has its own principal. We have one dean that splits their time between 2 different schools. This particular school has an assistant principal. The athletic director would be Article 4, so it wouldn't be embedded in this. Then we have all of the office staff as well. So all of the collective bargaining positions within the office staff are embedded in that. Oh, sorry, that's the next line, I'm sorry. Yeah. Anything else?
The only thing I got, we had 3 extremely long presenters that were here. And you can tell the passion from those positions, and the same thing last week with William. Yeah. When you have people who care, that are taking it, it's a lot easier to get this information from them. We had to email Bill because we had a town meeting in Winniport at the school, and somebody thought they lost a hearing aid, found his truck next morning, whatever. But I said that at 9 o'clock at night. At 4:58 in the morning Saturday, I got a call that he would go to the school, and I said no. Al Martin was able to go, but they were going to go, and the janitor down there had no idea we were coming, but he stayed. He was great, so he's probably all of 20 years old. So you needed to know that. They were great.
And I will say, that is reflective of the entire staff.
Oh, yes.
The individuals that put the budget together as well put an awful lot of time and effort into this, and they're passionate about their program, they're passionate about their school, they're passionate about everything involving education, and I can't say enough about the group that I work with. I've said it a number of times, but I'm humbled to work with this group. And I appreciate that.
That is evident, and it's much appreciated.
Yeah.
Good work.
And I am hopeful, although sometimes a little longer than others, I am hopeful that this process helps so that when you folks have questions or are asked questions, you can answer them or at least have some knowledge for that. I know, Casey, you were here last year for a lot of the meetings, but when you hear it over again and you get the information in a little more detail, I think it is much more beneficial.
Yeah, this is definitely working great, for my opinion.
All right, if there's nothing else, I guess we'll see each other next week, 4 o'clock, same channel.
No,
I move to adjourn.